Finally, we have it on the record what kept Whit Weeks out for more than a month. You'll hear it next. Locked on LSU. Here we go.
You are Locked On LSU, your daily podcast on the LSU Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Okay, let's get it. It is Locked On LSU, your team every day. I'm your host, Matt Moscona. Thanks so much for making us your first listen. We're free, available wherever you get podcasts, of course, on YouTube as well. So please subscribe. And as always, one of the fastest ways to help us grow is by leaving your comments below. So thank you sincerely for that. And thank you for helping make the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network in the world. But Whit Weeks, before Saturday against Western Kentucky, playing a couple of series, had not played since the South Carolina game. We now know why Whit Weeks had not played since the South Carolina game.
Well, I broke my ankle again, which that's not fun. So it just hurts. And I mean, I can't really play football on it because I could hardly even walk for 6 weeks. So that was the issue.
Whit Weeks finally acknowledges that he had a broken ankle. If you're an everydayer, shout out. You've heard me say many times over these past month plus that Whit was dealing with something more significant than just a twisted ankle, as some had assumed. The Friday before LSU played Vanderbilt, if you remember, Whit was listed as questionable for that game. And on my radio show from Nashville that day, I said pretty demonstrably in the first 60 seconds of the show that Whit Weeks was not going to play in that football game because I learned that day that he had a fracture. And you might say, well, Matt, why didn't you say if you knew he had a fracture? That's a good question. It's a fair question. And the reason is because I didn't have any more specifics and I had it single sourced. Now, it was a good source that I trust had the information right, that he had a fracture. But I tried over the last month to get anyone else at LSU, coaches, sports information people, communications people within the athletic department, doctors, trainers, to confirm the injury, and nobody did. So without knowing if it was a fracture in the shin, the foot, the ankle, how severe it was, timeline, any of that stuff, I wasn't comfortable saying it. But what I was comfortable saying is what I've said for a while, was that he was going to be out. Their hope was that he would return for Alabama, but that was not optimistic. And as you've seen now, why it's taken as long as it has. And, maybe this would be another good reminder. People just not make assumptions, because a lot of people have said a lot of not great things about Whit Weeks in the past month. Some people have thrown out allegations that he quit, that he opted out. You blamed his relationship with Landry Kiffin. You know who you are. But LSU doesn't have a better leader person on their team than Whit Weeks. And the fact that he worked so hard to get back just to play the 14 snaps he did against Western Kentucky so he could be on the field with his brothers was incredible. He also talked about that, by the way, on Tuesday.
Coach Baker told us on about Tuesday or Wednesday last week, he was like, second or third drive, I'm getting all three of y'all in, because my plan for me was to be limited. I was only planning on going 10 to 15 snaps just to kind of see how it felt, kind of get warmed up for this weekend. So Coach Baker knew that this is the one opportunity to get all three of us out there. So to have us all three out there, that was one of the coolest moments of my life by far. Because obviously getting to play with West all the time, it's that's a special moment. But then to have all three of us out there, I'm looking down the side and seeing both of them next to me. I'm like, wow, who else in the world gets to do this?
You can sense and hear the passion and the emotion, which is just awesome. Well, what Whit did confirm is that he broke his talus. That it was a clean break, right down the middle. So as he said, once it's healed, it's healed. He did not need surgery. It happened against Ole Miss at the end of the game, but they went from Ole Miss into their first open date, if you remember. Then they played South Carolina. And he played more than 60 snaps against South Carolina, had double-digit tackles, but played with a broken ankle. And he kind of described the next day is when he knew something wasn't right.
So we went Ole Miss and then off week.
Yeah.
Didn't do anything the off week. And then the week of South Carolina, like, I was like, holy cow. Like, I hardly even practiced before that game just because I could hardly even walk on it. But then just kind of sucked it up for that game. But then I remember on Sunday I was, like, taking a shower, and I was like, I can't even stand in the shower. Like, I probably need to go get this checked out. Sure enough, got an MRI on it, and sure enough, it was broken.
So he learned after South Carolina that it was broken. And then naturally after there, he missed the A&M game, had another open date, Alabama, or I guess after South Carolina missed Vanderbilt, A&M, open date, Alabama, Arkansas, played the 14 snaps against Western Kentucky. And as Whit says, he hopes to play about 30 snaps on Saturday against Oklahoma. And you're better with Whit Weeks on the field. That goes without saying. Not only is he your emotional leader, such a great football intelligence out there on the field, and is a heck of a football player. He was also asked about his draft decision, says he hasn't even considered it. He's just worried about Oklahoma. And they'll talk about that after the season. Did also say that he would work to get back and play in the bowl game. So guy's a football player that wants to be out on the field with his brothers and with his teammates. So it looks like, optimistically here, you get about 30 snaps from Whit against Oklahoma, where you'll need him because that's a struggling Oklahoma offense. It's interesting talking about Oklahoma this week. And what you kind of figure is that's a team that really resembles LSU. They've struggled offensively. They've been elite defensively. And they've found their way through games. Like Oklahoma is 75th in passing yards, 99th in rushing yards. They're 72nd in scoring offense at 27 points per game, but they're 6th in the country in scoring defense, just 14 points per game. They held Missouri to 6. They held Alabama to 21. They've just been a really good defensive team. They lost a game to Ole Miss where Trinidad Chambliss went a little wild and they allowed 34 points to Ole Miss. If it sounds familiar, two very, very similar teams in that respect. So you're hoping to get Whit Weeks back out there to help Tigers against Oklahoma, because that's going to be LSU's path in this game. The path in this game on Saturday is you go give a great defensive effort and you make this a one-score game in the fourth quarter, and you hope the ball bounces your way and you have a chance to win it. But Whit Weeks, also one more cut from him, just some amazing perspective on what's happened now, battling a couple of ankle injuries within a calendar year.
That's just life, right? When your plans are, we got a great team, like it's football. Injuries happen. It's a violent sport, but really that's the way that I'm looking at it. Like, wow, after we beat Clemson, it's like we're on top of the world, and then some stuff happens, boom, boom, boom. Next thing you know, coach gets fired. It's like, wow, that's just life. It's not going to go the way you want it to every time.
Great perspective from a young guy, and it'll be great to see Whit Weeks back out on the field Saturday in Norman, hopefully for about 30 snaps or so. It is Wednesday as we record this. 1 week from today is the start of the early signing period. So we've got updates on 2 premier commitments in LSU's class that could very well be flip watch prospects. You'll hear it next here, Locked on LSU, your team every day. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. And we're brought to you by Game Time. College football is back. Couldn't be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there's just nothing like it. But let's be real. Actually getting tickets can feel like more of a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. Pulled up Game Time, just a couple of taps, saw amazing deals. Talking about your favorite college football games as low as $25. And the app makes it super simple. You can see the exact view from your seat before buying. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. We are a week away from the early signing period. Tigers presently have only lost one commitment since Brian Kelly's firing. Every week, we visit with Shea Dixon from On 3 The Bengal Tiger to get a little recruiting update. And it's relevant now as we are still amid Kiffin watch for LSU, what may transpire. The Tigers with 16 commits, headlined, of course, by 5 stars, Lamar Brown and Richard Anderson, other premier prospects, Deuce Geralds, Trenton Henderson, Brysten Martinez, Haven Finney out of California. A lot of this is going to be determined by who comes in as LSU's next football coach, but 2 local prospects that are worth keeping an eye on. One is Richard Anderson, 5-star defensive tackle out of Edna Carr in New Orleans, who's been solidly committed, but took a visit to Texas this past weekend as the Longhorns are sincere in their push to try to flip Richard Anderson. And Shea Dixon, our buddy from On 3 The Bengal Tiger, gave the latest on Anderson.
Yeah, Big Rich is I think number 2 defensive lineman in the country. We've got him as a 5-star now on Rivals. He has really never, I shouldn't even say never really, he hasn't visited anyone else this whole time. Texas has really put the pressure on a lot of these guys to come to campus. He finally does. It was an unofficial visit, and look, simultaneously, Bryce Brown, his head coach, a guy that Frank Wilson singled out by name in his very first introductory press conference as interim head coach, and Aiden Hall, his teammate, another senior at Edna Carr, was front row at Tiger Walk. I saw Bryce Brown on the sidelines in Tiger Stadium. And I can put this very simple. If Frank Wilson's on this staff, Richard Anderson and all the Carr kids for this year and then the next year and the year after that, LSU wants them, they'll end up at LSU. It's just how it's like destiny. It's just how it goes. If Frank Wilson's not on the staff, then maybe those kids do have a decision to make that's a bit deeper than what, kind of where they're at now, because I just think between the relationship Bryce Brown has with Frank and maybe Frank being able to tell him some assurances of, hey, look, we're looking over these guys. We're going to hire a good, whether it's head coach, D-line coach for Richard Anderson. We don't know what the future holds for Corey Raymond. Aiden Hall's a DB. But I think they're a bit at ease right now. But the only thing that would change that or could change that commitment would be if Frank Wilson were here, and we don't know the outcome there yet.
It is worth noting, if you aren't familiar, that Frank Wilson did serve on Lane Kiffin's staff at Tennessee for that one season. So Frank Wilson was on Kiffin's staff in Knoxville when Kiffin took the job at Southern Cal and went to L.A. The next year was when Les Miles hired Frank Wilson at LSU, and he served that stint at LSU before he became the head coach at UTSA. So there is a relationship there with Frank Wilson and Lane Kiffin. So if Kiffin does become the LSU coach, it is very likely that Frank Wilson would be retained, and I would hope the same for Corey Raymond. One of the things that I have heard is that Lane Kiffin would like to keep his running backs and defensive backs coach, which could complicate things for Frank and Corey, but those feel like 2 musts for whoever the next head coach is. Now, the other is Brysten Martinez, the big offensive lineman out of East Ascension, just down the road from LSU. And he has been solidly committed to LSU all along as well, but Texas is also pursuing Martinez, and Shea has the update.
I push him a bit further into the flip watch category. I'm not counting it out with Rich Anderson. I just think Richard's going to end up at LSU. And I've talked to a number of people who think that, look, if things are trending where they are right now, he'll stick with LSU. But he has taken a very serious look at Texas. He had made an unofficial visit. He and his mother went back to Austin this past weekend for an official visit. Kind of the guy who spearheads things there. For those that don't know, is Brandon Harris, a former LSU quarterback. So he's been on that Texas staff for a while and worked his way up kind of into those GM roles that kind of everyone's being put into a position of. And His is really focused on recruiting, and he's got a good relationship with Martinez. They've got stability on staff, and I think that's obviously the thing that a guy like Brysten Martinez, who is a top 15 offensive tackle, is looking at. I don't know who the head coach is. I don't know if my O-line coach will be there. And the area recruiter I committed to was also already fired in Joe Sloan alongside the head coach. So as much as anyone may be a guy like Brysten Martinez, an O-lineman who was recruited by Sloan and Brad Davis, and Kelly's an O-line kind of guy who certainly, when it came to recruiting Matt, he kind of did get a good eye on the O-lineman and thought very highly of Brysten Martinez. What does it mean for him? And I'm not hitting the panic button there yet, but that one is real. That's one we're going to have to monitor.
Something that is worth noting, I had an opportunity to do an NIL video shoot with Richard Anderson, with Lamar Brown, Richard Anderson, and Brysten Martinez, all back in August before the football season started. And part of that was I got to sit down and interview each of them. And we talked a little bit about their commitment and why LSU. And the opportunity to play in Louisiana was significant. And you heard Shay talk about Richard Anderson there, the relationship with Frank Wilson. But specifically with Martinez, it was interesting because he said the thing that was the most important to him was being close to his mom and his mom having the opportunity to watch him play. And so his mom being in Ascension Parish, and if you were at LSU, he would be close to his mother and the opportunity to have her watch him play every week in Tiger Stadium. So for what that's worth, it does feel like sometimes those family ties can be a heavy pull. And I'll remind you again that all of these guys that are Louisiana guys have high school NIL deals in place. So if they were to flip, and these are contractual agreements, that if they were to flip, they would have to pay back the money that they've been paid already from the collective through their high school NIL deals. That's not to say Texas couldn't afford to do that. It's just to say that that is something to consider because they have all been paid up until this point by the collective for their commitment through high school NIL deals. So something to consider here as we're a week away from the early signing period. Okay, that'll do it for us here in today's episode of Locked On LSU. If you're on podcast, please subscribe on your favorite podcast app. Rate us, leave a review. If you're on YouTube, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you're notified whenever we post a new video, and let a friend know that if they love the Tigers, we got you here every single day for Locked On LSU, your team every day.